Hi, and welcome to Healing Highway. I'm Christopher, and I'm really glad you're here. This is program number 3 of 7, spotlighting the first 7 stories I wrote on my own road to healing. Wherever you're listening from today, your kitchen table, your commute, or maybe your own stretch of open road, do me a favor. Take a breath with me for a second. Not a dramatic one, just a steady one. So last month we talked about anxiety, about waking up with your chest already tight, about learning to slow down enough to hear what your body has been trying to say to you. Well, I heard from several of you who tried the challenge I left with you, choosing one intentional pause each day. Now, one listener wrote that said she started sitting in her car for 60 seconds before going inside after work. No phone, no music, just quiet. She said that those 60 seconds became the most honest part of her day. Not because anything changed, but because she finally stopped outrunning herself. That's what this road does. It doesn't overhaul your life, it gives you room inside of it. And that's what brings us to this edition for the month of March. Now, Healing Highway exists because most of us are moving faster than our souls were designed to travel. We wake up scrolling, we eat while answering emails, we drive while thinking 3 towns ahead. And somewhere in all of that forward motion, our mental health gets treated like a dashboard light we'll deal with later. But mental health doesn't thrive in constant acceleration. It thrives in rhythm. In steadiness, in pace. Route 66 taught me that, not in a big dramatic moment, not in a crisis, just in the simple act of driving at a speed that lets you see the land instead of a blur as it passed by. Now, that's where this story lives. This is the 3rd story in the Healing Highway series, called Mental Health at 55 miles per hour. Speed's a strange thing when you think about it. Most of us spend our days pushing the gas, chasing deadlines, dodging texts, scarfing lunch behind the wheel or over a laptop. We're always late for something, or we're early for something else, but never really in anything. Then somewhere outside Tucumcari, New Mexico, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in a very long while. I was driving. Just driving. No rushing, no calculating, no planning my next 3 moves. Just rolling on Route 66 at about 55 miles per hour. Now, not because the sign told me to, but because the road asked me to. Out here, the asphalt winds slower. The signs are older and, well, the turns, they're softer. And you start to remember how to breathe from your belly instead of your chest. You know the kind. Big, honest breaths that loosen your shoulders and unspool the worry in your ribs. That kind of breathing doesn't come easy when you're stuck in traffic eating something wrapped in foil and guilt. But at 55 miles an hour, you start noticing things. Like a hawk riding thermals. A crooked merle peeling off a brick wall in a town with just one stoplight. The smell of creosote in the air, the way a gas station burrito actually tastes when you're not inhaling it in panic. I pulled off at some old diner with the sun-faded lettering and a jukebox that still worked. The booth I slid into hadn't been reupholstered since disco died, and honestly, the ketchup bottle had stories to tell. You could figure that one out just by looking at it. Now the waitress, she came over, smiled, but didn't rush. No one looked at me sideways as I was eating all alone. And when the burger came, I actually tasted it. I mean, really tasted it. When's the last time you did that? There's a kind of therapy you get on this road that doesn't come with a copay or a clipboard. It's just you, the open sky, and whatever thoughts surface finally after the noise dies down. It's not always comfortable, but it's always honest. I noticed I hadn't checked my phone in hours. I didn't care what time it was. I didn't care what anyone was posting. My only real plan, well, that was to hit the next town before the dark hit and hope someone still had a neon vacancy sign flickering out front. And somehow that was enough. That's the magic of 55 on 66. It gives your mind room to wander, room to return to itself. Sometimes it hands you back the things you didn't realize had gone missing, and like your humor, your patience, and your hunger to wander. Now I pulled over to watch the light hit a rock face the way it only does once a day. I didn't take a photo, didn't post it, didn't even tell anyone about it until now. It wasn't for show, it was just for me. And that small, quiet moment filled me up in a way that no like ever has. Route 66 doesn't offer fast lanes or express checkouts, and maybe that's the whole point. It slows you down, not because you're behind, but because you finally are right where you need to be. I think most of us are starving for quiet, for space, for slowness that doesn't feel like failure. And if you give this road half a chance, it'll give it all back to you. There's no checklist out here. There's no race to win. Just rhythm, slow, steady, and somehow synced up with your soul if you let it. So if the world feels like it's whirling past you and you have to try to catch your breath, try 55. Roll the windows down, turn the music low, and ask the guy at the next gas station how his day is going, and really mean it when you ask. I want you to eat something warm and messy at a diner that hasn't changed the menu in 40 years. Let your thoughts catch up. Let your heart rest. Try Route 66. It won't fix everything, but it might remind you that not everything has to be fixed. Some things just need time and silence and a little room to ride beside you a while. So after a story like that, here are 3 things I hope you'll carry with you. First, speed is not strength. We live in a culture that treats busyness like a badge of honor, but constant motion is not the same thing as resilience. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do for your mental health is reduce the pace. Not dramatically, not permanently, just enough to breathe from your belly instead of your chest. Second, mental health improves in moments, not milestones. It wasn't a breakthrough that shifted things on that road. It was a burger that was tasted slowly. A hawk riding a thermal, light hitting a rock face. Tiny, unposted moments. Remember that stability rarely arrives as a grand event. It builds quietly in the miles you actually notice. And third, slowness is alignment, not failure. At 55 miles an hour, you're not falling behind. You're matching your internal rhythm with your external one. When your body and your thoughts travel at the same speed, anxiety softens. Presence returns. And that alone can change how you experience your day. None of that fixes everything, but it changes how you move through it. I hope that helps. Hey, here's this month's Healing Highway Challenge. For the next 7 days, I want you to choose one activity each day and intentionally do 55 miles an hour. Almost like a metaphor. That might mean actually driving the speed limit without pushing it. And it also means eating one meal without a screen. Taking a short walk without headphones. Sit somewhere for 5 minutes without documenting it. No optimizing, no performing, no turning it into content. Just presence. Remember, mental health doesn't always require a breakthrough. Sometimes it just needs calibration. Time now for the Chaplain's Corner. This is where I give a quiet word for your soul. So there is no trophy for arriving exhausted. Somewhere along the way, many of us absorb the idea that pushing harder equals living better. That if we can just stay ahead of our inbox, our goals, our doubts, we finally feel steady. But mental health doesn't respond to force. It responds to care. It responds to rhythm, to consistency, to gentleness. You don't have to conquer your thoughts to be well. You don't have to silence every restless feeling to be worthy of peace. You just need space to hear what's true underneath all the noise. And sometimes what's true is simple. You're tired. You've been running. You haven't given yourself room to simply be. Slowing down is not quitting, it's listening. And the road at 55 miles per hour doesn't shame you for going slower than someone else. It doesn't ask you about your productivity. It just meets you where you are and offers steady ground beneath your wheels. That's grace. Not loud, not dramatic, just present. You don't need to fix everything this week. You don't need to solve your whole life. You just need one honest breath, one steady mile, one moment where your heart can rest. And trust me, that'll be enough. So Route 66, well, the Centennial is this year. And because it only turns 100 once, each episode that I'm doing of the Healing Highway, I pick a place that I'd like you to visit. So they're expecting millions on the road this year to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles. So I try to find a spot along the way that I think you should stop and see. And this month's episode, I want you to stop in Clinton, Oklahoma. Now, Clinton's what they call the hub city of western Oklahoma. About 8,000 people call it home these days. Not huge, not flashy, just steady. And Route 66 runs right through it. I'm not talking about the romanticized version. I'm talking about the real alignment. The old stretch that twists through the town, sometimes paralleling the I-40, but sometimes slipping quietly into the business routes, like it refuses to be erased. Clinton is home to one of the best Route 66 museums on the whole road, the Oklahoma Route 66 Museum. So if you want to know the story of how this highway shaped America and, well, how America shaped it right back, that's your stop. Neon jukeboxes, Dust Bowl grit, chrome, and more chrome. It's all there. But honestly, I like Clinton for the smaller things. Like the 1937 Y service station still standing there like it's waiting for a 49 Ford to pull up. The old school motels that you're going to find. The neon that hums just enough to remind you it's alive. Route 66 through Oklahoma runs somewhere between 375 and 430 miles, depending on which measure of the road you're on. Through Clinton, it's just a handful of twisting segments. Not long, but meaningful. And that's the thing about towns like Clinton. They're not trying to impress you. They're just trying to endure. If you pass through, don't treat it like a checkbox. I want you to stop your car, walk a little bit, look up at the signage, notice what hasn't been renovated into something unrecognizable. Clinton doesn't shout. It just stays. And sometimes that's exactly the kind of place your mental health needs to remember, well, to remember what still exists. Hey, if you have a question or a story or something you'd like me to explore in future episodes, you can reach me through the website or email me directly at letstalk@healinghighwaypodcast.com. That's letstalk@healinghighwaypodcast.com. I promise I read every message. If this episode meets you where you are, I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Healing Highway drops the first Sunday of every month. And if you know someone who's been living in the fast lane a little too long, why don't you invite them along? This road is much better when it's traveled together. Thank you again for spending this time with me, and remember this, you're not behind, you're not broken, you're not alone out here. The road has rhythm, and you're allowed to travel at a speed that keeps your soul intact. Travel well, my friends. Have faith and good courage.